From Illinois.
Let me just say that at the VA, we recently passed a PACT Act that added well over 1 million veterans to the rolls to help care for them after they were exposed to toxic substances. This is not the time to cut the funding for the VA. But I am here today to speak on behalf of all veterans who have been fired by President Trump and Elon Musk. Look, Donald Trump couldn't tell you the meaning of the word service or sacrifice if he had a dictionary laying open in front of him. So how dare a coward who cried bone spurs when his nation needed him the most turn his back on those who, unlike him, were actually brave enough to serve our country in uniform? What he has done to our veterans in just a few months since he's been back in office amounts to a total betrayal. For no apparent reason, he's already fired more veterans than any other American president in modern history. Over 6,000 and counting. He's been forcing the bravest people you or I could ever meet to have to worry about how they're going to put food on their family's table next week or keep a roof over their heads next month. Madam President, the biggest predictor of veterans' homelessness is not that they're suffering from post-traumatic stress. It is not substance abuse. It is loss of a job. Homelessness is directly linked to joblessness. These folks that Trump fired, these are folks who did 1, 2, 6, even 7 tours, then came home and chose to continue serving their nation by joining the federal service. These are heroes who deserve our utmost gratitude, not a letter from Elon Musk telling them that they failed to do their jobs and that they are out of those jobs. Instead, Trump and Elon Musk gave them the middle finger and a pink slip. Cadet Bone Spurs may like to wrap himself in the flag with one hand, but with the other, he's signing off on the orders that sell out our veterans to line the pockets of his rich friends. And our warriors deserve better. So this afternoon, Senator Blumenthal, Senator Sanders, and I are introducing 3 resolutions that demand the reinstatement of every veteran who's been fired and betrayed by Donald Trump. If Republicans actually care about our heroes like they claim to when they're on the campaign trail, then they will vote with we Democrats and help give our veterans their federal jobs back. Otherwise, they're making it clear that they would rather bow down at the altar of Donald Trump than stand up for our heroes. Thank you. As if in legislative session, and notwithstanding Rule 22, I ask unanimous consent, the Senate proceed to the consideration of S-Res 166, which was submitted earlier today. Further, I ask unanimous consent that the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, and that the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
Is there objection?
Madam President, reserve the right to object.
The senator from Montana.
I just want to set the record straight that the VA's population of employees did grow because of the PACT Act, a bill that was voted on and passed in a bipartisan way to save the lives of those veterans who would otherwise be dying if they did not have access to VA health care for the illnesses that are caused by their exposure to toxic substances. So let's be clear about why we hired more people within the Department of Veterans Affairs. It was because they were given the permission by this Congress, by this body, in a bipartisan way, passing the PACT Act legislation, which funded care for veterans who were exposed to burn pits in Iraq and Afghanistan, toxic substances through their military service. My resolution is about all veterans who serve this nation. Some of the veterans who've been laid off, park rangers at our National Park Service who are now out of a job, people who were promoted because they were doing such a good job. One person that I have been trying to get their job back was actually working with the Veterans Crisis Hotline. And they were doing such a good job answering the phones that they were promoted to be a trainer. And as soon as they were promoted to be a trainer to help other people to answer those hotlines, which could help veterans, stop veterans from contemplating death by suicide, they became probationary employees and they were fired. That is the kind of thing that we're talking about. People being laid off from their jobs, veterans who've worked hard in this country, for this country and have worked hard in the Department of Veterans Affairs and other federal agencies like the National Park Service, like the EPA, like the DOT, and that is who Donald Trump and Elon Musk are firing. If you want to save money, I'm all for it. I am there with you. I've actually passed legislation that saved this country billions of dollars in fraud and waste that occurred in the Department of Defense. I also think that Elon Musk's decision to deport people to India using a C-17 aircraft at the cost of $2 million of taxpayer money, when normally that flight would cost $38,000 if you were actually to charter an aircraft, was an egregious waste of taxpayer dollars. So let's talk about who's wasting money here. It is Elon Musk who's wasting money. It is Donald Trump who's wasting money. And at the same time, President Trump has now become the president who's fired the most veterans in our nation's modern history. Over 6,000 fired and counting. So let's set the record straight. Thank you, Mr. President.